Hi, I'm Nancy Shanto, and I'm going to read to you from Access to Power, a radical approach for changing your life. I'm reading from the Pig Fight chapter, Getting Unstuck, and this is the section on normalizing. Um, Normalizing as a method is one of the keystones of beginning to cultivate our wise adult consciousness. And it's something that we use a lot in Skills for Change to help people relax and settle down when they're feeling like they did something wrong or they're failing at something. So it's one of the big things that helps begin the process of calming the nervous system and preparing for the analysis that we're going to do in order to make new choices and create new habits. Okay, I'm going to read this and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Normalize, or of course. In fighting the pig, the first step is to normalize and reframe our behavior, thoughts, and choices, and how the pig became a part of our daily existence in a cultural and social context, so we can understand why our actions make sense given our setting, training, and history. Of course, we internalized the oppressive forces of systemic, structural, and cultural domination when we were growing up. All of the trusted adults in our lives, parents, teachers, guardians, babysitters, clergy, had also internalized oppressive values and were transmitting these values to us, along with positive values that we may choose to keep. And of course, we internalized these messages as rules for living because we were much less powerful as a toddler, kid, adolescent, teenager, and young adult than we are now, and we had far fewer choices. Pleasing adults and adhering to the social rules meant that we had a chance to feel safe and loved. When we normalize, we want to get as close as possible to the exact circumstances of our lives and to reflect back to ourselves why our struggle makes sense, given the situation we were in and the difficulty of our journey. Normalizing gives us an opportunity to tell a bigger truth about the past and our experience, one that helps us understand why we suffered then and still suffer now. We try to tell the truth from our adult ego state, so we include elements of cultural and social context and remind ourselves of the contradictions inherent in our struggle to make a change that might be better for us. One of the key things about normalizing when we're doing it is that we need to consider forces that are acting on us that are bigger than our individual and personal lives. Sometimes we don't think about those forces. Pressures that are coming from peers, from the media, from the culture. And also social context, what's possible inside of the existing context, the time and the place that we're in, or our experience, the history that we have, the lack of knowledge or the presence of knowledge that's there, and how we know how to make decisions, how we are able to move differently. Very often people will look back and say, I should have, or I would have, if I could have. How come I didn't? With an orientation to, I should have protected myself from an experience. I should have been able to see it coming. I should have been able to get past it and not experience all that pain and suffering. And really, most of the time, if we could have gotten past something, if we could have moved around something, we would have. If we were to look at every situation as if we always are doing our best, which is what I think is mostly true about people, we usually do the best we can in the current circumstances to take care of ourselves. And when we finally have the knowledge or the wisdom or the understanding that it takes in order to make a change, we'll sometimes look back and say, how come I didn't do this sooner? Yet the moment that we had that wisdom, knowledge, and experience to make that change came at the moment we did make that change. Before that, we didn't have that wisdom, knowledge, and experience, so we needed to gain it. And the way we gained it was by making mistakes and feeling the pain and suffering of the mistakes. Very often, when we felt enough pain, then we are able to make that change. Before that, habits have an enormous amount of force in our lives. They're very profoundly potent in terms of influencing our behavior. So while it might seem like we should look back and figure out how we could have done that differently, probably what's going to happen is that we're going to see how we couldn't when we normalize. That when we're normalizing, we're going to see how the forces that were shaping us, the experiences that we had, didn't lead us to make a better decision. How we can be compassionate with ourselves for not knowing any better. And then without using all of that energy to beat ourselves up, we use that energy instead. We free that energy up to move forward, to do what we do need to do now, because we're still in the process. Usually when we're feeling bad about something that happened in the past, we're in the process of changing. And all of that energy, we call it PIG, that internalized oppressive language and body shape that comes with shame or self-judgment. Those shapes, that energy takes a lot if we're judging ourselves and making ourselves wrong. And we'd rather allocate that energy to the things we're doing now, the change we're trying to make, so that we are successful, so that we can end that change heartbreak that happens and see our way forward into a new future. Okay, I hope that helps.